hunger inside of me, violently scratching and clawing. The scars multiplying, I need something more in this life. It ain't finding me, fuck it, I'm done being silent. You see, I need purpose, a reason to think that it's all fucking worth it. A reason to wake up and live in this circus. A reason to fight all my visceral urges. Growing up, never felt like a...
Alright guys, welcome back to Backlog People. Happy Friday. I don't know, this might go on the Saturday, depending on how long it takes to edit. Anyways, happy Friday. Today we're going to be reacting to the next name just landed in Europe and nobody noticed. I won't be calling the next name, but this is Estevão, Chelsea. He's going to play for Chelsea this week. So yeah. Anyways, we're going to go into the video. So yeah, I'm trying to get this out before it hits like 11 o'clock. It's now 9:40. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Hope everyone's having a good Friday. So yeah, as you guys know, I'll be attending some watch parties, so gotta get the videos out. Let's begin.
Oh, listen to this. Chelsea may have just pulled off the biggest deal in Brazilian football history and nobody noticed. Look, few clubs are as shady about their transfer market moves as them. I don't think anyone hates financial fair play more than their owner Todd Bowley. This guy has spent almost 2 billion euros on the signings of over 50 players in just 3 years and somehow escaped any real punishment from FIFA, finding one loophole after the other despite the fact they have already changed their own rule books in order to stop him, and well, I think he just pulled off another heist. In a world where Florentino Perez seems ready to snatch up the next Brazilian talent the moment he pops out the womb, Chelsea managed to hijack the signing of the next Neymar, and among so many other transfer moves, scandals, the actual Club World Cup overshadowing everything, and thanks to some heavily underreported fees, they have managed to do it quietly enough that the Premier League seriously doesn't realize what's about to hit them. I really don't remember seeing Brazil go this crazy for a kid since the times of Neymar. People are actually nuts about Estevão. When I was doing a video about Endrick, I couldn't go through a single article, comment section or post without seeing someone bring up that Endrick might be good, but Estevão was just on another level.
Oh shit.
That was before he broke into the Palmeiras first team and began shattering Neymar's records left and right. Just watch how this boy was playing when he was 5, 6, 7 years old. This isn't just a classic case of a kid playing at the level of those 1 or 2 years above him. It was just ridiculous. One of those prodigies where there's no other way to explain it but say it was a God-given talent, which is ironic considering that first, this guy is literally the son of a priest and in his own words was raised in church, and second, his dad, the priest, coached him daily, like obsessively since he was born. It was only true when his father, who, believe it or not, back in the day was actually a goalkeeper for their local team Francana, got in contact with an ex-teammate and got him to open an exception within his academy that only accepted kids over 5 so they could take in Estevão, and already back then, he was running the older kids into the ground, so much that by the end of the year, instead of keeping him at that academy level, they were forced to bump him up. And it wasn't just about how out of this world his skills were. His dad really put that work ethic into this kid. Check every photo of him, his eyes are always locked onto the coach. This kid was a professional at 5. He could barely read and write and already he was famous across the state. First, the club noticed that the other kids' parents were showing up in the masses, not missing a single training session, all just so they could watch him play rather than watching their own kids. Then, in a second, rumors went around of a kid so good there were actual requests to ban him from his little league because the other team's managers were saying that this isn't even football anymore, the other kids don't even want to play against him. So now the whole town was nicknaming him Messinho, or Tiny Messi in Portuguese, and crowds were showing up asking to watch him. But the thing is, again, it was club policy that only the parents were allowed in their grounds, but even that went out the gate once literal scouts began posing as the parents of his teammates so they could go in and either record him or try to coax his father into some deal. So eventually they just said to hell with it and made the training sessions public. It was only an under-9 when the first bidding war for his signing started. Santos had come in, São Paulo as well, and eventually it all came down to Palmeiras versus Cruzeiro, and I kid you not, when things got down to the wire, as it already seemed usual around him, Cruzeiro lost their heads and 10x'd their offer to get him into their academy. At only 10, he and his whole family moved 6 hours away from home, all sponsored by the club. And speaking of sponsors, that same year, he signed with Nike. Neymar was 13 when he got that contract, Rodrigo was 11, but Estevão was the youngest ever. Forget that bit of local fame he had, now the whole country knew about him, and still, somehow, after all that effort, Cruzeiro managed to fumble his signing. Only a couple years later, their directors found themselves owing some money to an agent, and I kid you not, to settle it, since, well, they didn't have the money needed, they offered him a share of the transfer rights to several of their academy players, most notable of all, Estevão himself. And that would already be a massive breach of FIFA's regulations, considering that he was underaged. But worst of all, he was actually so young at the time that he wasn't even allowed to have signed any contracts with them, which he clearly had, since not only was it later exposed that they coaxed the family into going along with it by giving them 15% of the money involved, but once it hit the fan and it all ended up in court, they didn't just stick with not offering the dad any support at all. They outright threw him under the bus, and he ended up as a defendant in the case, which meant that he was in actual danger of ending up in jail. So, as you may have expected, after a 2-year-long court battle, when the kid turned 14 and was actually able to sign a proper contract, the dad drove him out to São Paulo and signed him with Palmeiras instead. But even then, Cruzeiro's president was shameless enough to go on TV and bash the family for taking him away, actually going as far as claiming they were the ones who had no morals. Yeah, I'm glad to inform you the father sued them after all of that and won. But the strangest thing about this is that not even all of that drama was enough to stop Estevão. After closing out that first year with Palmeiras by winning the Under-15 Paulista Championship with a goal in the final, well, once they tried keeping him in that same Under-15 level the next year,
they couldn't.
He opened with 6 goals in 2 games, so they went ahead and bumped him up straight to the Under-17s for the Copa Brazil, meaning that among all the hype surrounding Endrick, there was now a kid, even younger than him, in that same squad, still 14, even if only a few days off of his 15th birthday, while Endrick was already way too young to be there, was not far from turning 16, which was all impressive, but nowhere near as much as when they started giving him a few minutes at the end of every game, and he proceeded to score 5 goals across his first 91 minutes on the pitch. All while midway through it, they decided to let him play a bit in the Under-17 Paulista as well, only for him to, again, score 5 goals in 5 matches, at one point getting a hat-trick where in every single goal he dribbled past the whole defense, somehow even getting 2 assists as well that very same game, meaning now, with Endrick and Luis Guilherme added to Estevão, the fans were dubbing that team the billion-dollar generation. That was not the peak of the hype. Not even close, because while they did win that Copa Brazil, they also decided to keep Estevão on the bench for the final, probably afraid it was all becoming a bit too much. But then, they sent Endrick into the under-20s, and if the rumor that Estevão was better than Endrick had already started doing the rounds, I mean, even Endrick himself had kneeled down to shine his boots. Once allowed to take over the team by himself, it was just madness. To close out the Paulista, Estevão added 6 more goals to his tally, closing out the group stage with an incredible solo run, and then opening the score in the final to take that title as well, with a chip from like 40 yards out. And yet, there was still the actual Brazilian Under-17 Championship to be played. Against the most prestigious academies in the country, the 15-year-old opened his tally on his first start by dribbling past half of the Chapecoense team before scoring, and then added 5 more goals over the next 3 games, a volley against Internacional, 2 against São Paulo, with a screamer from outside the box, and then a backheel touch to start yet another solo run, before closing out the group stage with a direct corner kick and another from outside the box. Once in the quarters, 3 assists and a vital away goal secure their place in the semis, and though for the next 3 games, it would go kind of under the radar, not really getting on the score sheet despite still taking his 4th trophy of the year. Then, the academy director revealed he had broken one of his toes and had been taking painkiller injections to make it to the end of the season. It's one thing for a pro player to do that. A kid, though, that's a whole other level. Enough that they ended up calling up the 15-year-old to the Copinha, the biggest under-20 tournament in Brazil. Look, I'll tell you to you straight, that time he didn't get to play much. Still, he did score a really good goal at the beginning, and I can't even imagine how people would have reacted if that incredible solo effort against Goiás had gone in, because once they won the whole thing, even without playing a major role, he had their own academy director calling him a super phenomenon. Regardless, now older and splitting his time between the 2 teams, when they brought him in for the Under-17 Copa Brazil semi-finals, he, as usual, dribbled past half of Vasco's team to tie the away game, then came in for the home leg and put them in front with a free kick, before running half the pitch's length to assist another, and in the final, of course, another goal and a trophy. So then they brought him in late to an Under-20 Libertadores match, and he assisted the winner, so they did it again the next game, and he scored equalizer. It was absurd how this kid just kept winning, and though once kept around the under-20s for 3 months straight, he struggled a bit, finally losing a final after all those years. Well, then he just joined the under-17s again and made up for all of that, assisting 2 and scoring 2 in the quarterfinals of the Brazilian Championship with another free kick and a rare header, before scoring another in the semis and saving his greatest performance till that day for the final.
Monday.
3-0 against São Paulo with a hat-trick from Estevão. To open things up, obviously a solo run, then a clean strike to make it 2, and by the end, they were so desperate they brought him down and handed him the hat-trick on a silver platter. So with that, added to 3 goals and 3 assists in 5 matches with the Brazil under-17s, the first team manager Abel Ferreira lost his head and brought him in for the final game of the season, meaning that the kid who claims he used to practice while his father prayed in church, dribbling the wooden benches, playing kick-ups against the church walls and running up and down towards the pulpit, finished off his year by becoming a full-on Brazilian championship against his old team Cruzeiro at only 16.
Damn,
After
crazy,
this,
bro.
Palmeiras at PSG knocking at their door, trying to snap up both him and Endrick in an €80 million package deal, but they must have forgotten, this was the billion-dollar generation. And though they still decided to send Estevão to the Copinha again the following season just to make sure they weren't crazy to put such a young kid in the first team, he was quick to put down 6 goal contributions in his first 4 matches, so once they shockingly got knocked out by a team that had never even played a Copinha in their history, they gave him full license to prove his worth, and of course he did. After 4 months getting ready with the first team, he got his first start, and right there, his first goal, all in the Libertadores, only the 3rd ever under-17 player to score in the competition. Then, 2 weeks later, 2 goals in 2 games, and finally, by June, already midway through the season, he finally hit cruise speed. First, 2 amazing assists against Vasco in a 2-0 win, then the very next game, an absolute screamer against Atlético Mineiro, making it look like there was no difference between this and the under-17s, impressing so much that Abel Ferreira begged, like he literally begged the board to keep him until 2027 when he turned 20, claiming he had never seen anything like him in football, trying to tiptoe around Messi and Neymar comparisons, but still saying that it is like the ball is glued to his feet, which surely reminds me of a certain someone, but regardless, there was no shot of keeping him any longer since every European giant was sniffing around, or at least not until Chelsea came in. First, they found out that Real Madrid's chief scout Rony Calafat and Estevão's agent André Coury were on bad terms, so that
I didn't know that.
Then, well, PSG seemed to be moving into a new era of more tame signings, so they could just price them out. Bayern and Liverpool would just never go all in on a signing like this, and City were still yet to make a serious approach. So, with only Barcelona left, despite the kid openly flirting with the idea of joining them for years, Chelsea realized there was one offer they simply would never be able to match. They could, indeed, just pay up front and allow him to stay there for one more year.
Yeah, that's what
which,
it did. Yeah.
with Barcelona struggling so hard to even register their players, was something they could never compete with. All roads were open for them to snatch the kid they called the next Neymar. However,
no, we're
what
not doing
shocked
that,
many
bro.
were the figures. Every newspaper had a different one, some as low as £27 million, which,
No,
for a
it
club
was
who
70
outright
million.
sold their own women's team to a sister company in order to keep FIFA
Shut
off
up.
their tails, meant something was off. Especially when the kid's own agent claims the deal was actually worth 61.5 million
that is-
euros. In his own words, the greatest deal in Brazilian football history, even bigger than Neymar's.
With
And
add-ons.
if you haven't caught up to that yet, he's also the guy who was responsible for Neymar's transfer to Barcelona, so he would know what he's talking about. The secret,
Damn.
apparently, underreporting, with the actual fixed fees adding up to 45 million, and
Yep,
then
that is-
16.5
Yep.
million in the easiest objective-based add-ons in history, as long as he makes 70 appearances for Chelsea over his 8-year-long contract. Not starts, not goals, appearances. They pay off
Basically, yeah.
all that remains. Simple as that. Regardless, back to Brazil. The very next day, right after the transfer announcement, not only did Estevão score a half volley, but he's celebrating by imitating Cole Palmer in a nod to his
Yeah.
future teammate. And after 2 more goals and 2 more assists in July, with that screamer against Grêmio as well as that run against Bahia, it was actually his performance against Cuiabá the next month that really started the most unbelievable parts of his season. 2 goals and 2 assists in a 5-0
scored
win,
against us in the
stepping
World
up
Cup
to take a
final.
penalty at only
The
16,
quarters final.
scoring, and all throughout the match just dribbling circles around the opposition. So once he cut in and smacked in another goal the very next game, he was already being called up to the Brazilian national team, becoming the second youngest this century to be handed such an
Followed by
honor.
Neymar.
And still, things got even better. He came
Hendrick.
back with another goal, and though he got sidelined for 15 days that same game,
Yeah.
once fit again, a goal and an assist in his first game were enough to place him at the top of the league for goal contributions, even though he had only played 59% of the available minutes. But
That's
above all,
ridiculous.
it was enough to break Neymar's all-time record for the most goal contributions by an under-18 player, being the only to ever hit 20.
Wow.
Though, to rain on his parade, despite the fact he had Palmeiras at the top of the table with 3 games left, the
They
very
lost by
next
1
one,
point.
a defeat to second place Botafogo, saw them drop to second, and though the next game he'd bang in a free kick in the 90th minute to win them the match and keep the dream alive, a defeat on the final day ruined it all, even if, nevertheless, he had finished as the league's top assist provider and not that far off the top scorer. Such an absurdly complete performance that, for the first time ever, the judges were convinced to hand the league's golden ball for player of the year to an under-18 player. Not Neymar, not Kaká, Ronaldinho, or the phenomenal himself.
Wait,
Estevão
what?
Willian. Best player, best newcomer, best forward, and top assist provider, all 4 awards to one kid. Ever since
Damn,
then,
bro,
among
that's
rumors that he'd
cold.
slowed down for the half season he had left before joining Chelsea, especially
Chelsea.
after a missed penalty in the Paulista final, had many forgetting they only got there thanks to his man of the match performance in the quarters, with those 2 absurd goals to clutch the game, not to mention that other one against Botafogo SP that gave
Yeah,
me
he can shoot.
flashbacks to Neymar's Puskás Award. Well, now, not only has he closed down his final 12 games of the regular season with 10 goal contributions, but in the Club World Cup, after rubbing shoulders with Messi and repeatedly proving that not even the best teams in the world could stop him, just as he was about to get knocked out by his new club Chelsea, he made sure to drop
Yeah.
one final screamer,
Yeah,
almost as to
saw
warn the
the,
Premier League that they really just aren't ready.
Yeah. I'm excited to see him. I'm actually excited to see him at Chelsea, bro. I am. Oh, yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it. Just follow my social media down below, and thanks for watching. So make sure to check out the Gen V and Peacemaker trailer at the top there. It should be at the top right there somewhere. Make sure to check it out. Yeah, it's top right. It should be right here or right here. I don't know exactly. But make sure to check out those videos. So, yeah. So, thanks for watching, guys. And come with tea. what he has off for Chelsea. You know, thanks for watching and adios.
Yeah, I don't fake that, I just wanna be free, yeah, chase that. I got a new obsession, it's helping and teaching and giving everyone a lesson. It's living and winning and building something that's impressive. I don't wanna do the same thing, I wanna be progressive. So I'ma make a new me, a new beast, a true fiend. He's everything